welcome to the Lighten Up podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I am delighted you have chosen to join me today for episode 186. Profiting in the new year. I want to talk about that interesting word, profit, today. It brings up all sorts of stuff for all sorts of people. I know for myself, the first time I started looking at this angle that we're going to take today on profiting, I was very happy and very lit up by the possibility. And at the same time, deep down in my little belly, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is an okay thing. And I think so many of us have this kind of love-hate relationship with this idea of profiting. Our mind can go, absolutely, if I'm investing in a business, if I'm building a business, if I'm working for an organization, that I should be able to actually profit from that. I should be able to receive the fruits of my labor. Same thing with personal relationships. If I'm spending my time, my energy, my caring into a relationship, yes, there should be a reciprocal flow. I should be able to actually receive so much from that my life continually would get greater. I'm getting out more than I'm putting in. And it's fascinating taking this viewpoint on profiting. And this first came about, I was listening to Gary Douglas, one of my mentors, talking about it. And he said forever he was looking for a word that actually was indicative or kind of housed all this beautiful energy of no matter what you're putting out into the world, your life is continually expanding. It's continually getting greater. And it's not a linear, I'm putting an hour in, therefore I'm getting this back. It's whatever energy or resource that I'm actually feeding into this creation, this business, this relationship, this organization, this creative project, whatever it is I'm feeding into it, it's not a one-way flow. There is a reciprocation, an energy that actually comes back out of it in many different forms. And in that, your life gets greater. You end up profiting from whatever it is that you're gifting. You are able to receive the fruits of your labor. You're able to receive all of the different forms that come from whatever you've been feeding into that entity. It could be a very straightforward, I'm building a business, I'm putting all these resources, I'm investing in, I'm actually now receiving more money than I put in. That's a very easier way to kind of look at profit, and one that we still get very twisted and tied around, unfortunately. It's also kind of interesting to look at just the relationship side of it or the creative side of it. If you are spending your time, if you're spending your money, if you're spending your energy, if you're putting your creative energy into something, and a lot of you out there, if you're putting your caring energy in, then hopefully, what would it take? Hopefully, there's an outflow coming back at you. Your life gets greater just with your choice to invest in that thing. And so many of us don't have that. I know a lot of y'all listening are like me, where you're very service driven. You know that you're here to touch people and to connect with people and to put forth into the world something that is uniquely you. And I don't just mean you entrepreneurs listening out there or people working in a service-based business. A lot of us are constantly feeding the beast. We're feeding into relationships and creative projects, into community even. And we do that in such a way when we're service driven because we desire a better world. We desire more for everybody. And unfortunately, what happens a lot is because we're service driven, we are constantly in an outpour. We're constantly giving because we're called to give. We're constantly feeding out. And if we have weird points of view about receiving the fruit of that, receiving from it so much that you end up profiting, meaning your life grows, you get bigger. Because of it, we end up depleting ourselves. We end up getting really frustrated. I know I'm not the only one out there dealing with this. We get really frustrated of like, gosh, I'm like feeding and feeding and feeding, and I feel like I'm getting morsels in return. There's something really off with the flow of that. Truly, if you are a giver, if you are someone who is service-based and desires greater and you're engaging with all that, you're putting it out there, you're a gifter, what would it take for you also to open up that channel to start to receive as well? to start to receive with such veracity that you actually end up profiting. You are able to put something into a business, a creation, a person, a relationship, and receive so much in return that both of your lives, that both of it actually grows into more. With that service thing, a lot of us flip, unfortunately, into like a servant mentality where we are the overgifter. We give when our tank is empty and we are on deplete. We don't actually really step up to the fact that just because I desire greater for the people in my life or want to put something forth into the world that makes it a better place, that means that I have to deplete myself. This has a very, again, servant mentality. It also has a kind of hint of martyr to it as well. So everywhere you've been kind of functioning from the martyr mentality or the servant mentality, where you're under whatever it is you're creating or feeding into, will you please destroy and uncreate all of those points of view with it? Allow all of that energy to relax and start to actually see if you are willing to actually receive from what you put in. Are you allowed to? Do you have some blocks with that? Is it something where it's kind of like a no-no thing? Like you're supposed to always give. Don't you know that? I'm like the mother with 5 kids. They have to be fed before I can get fed. If you're a healer, if you're working in a business that way, you're always giving to the client, you're always putting stuff out, you're putting stuff forth. Are you willing for your own body to actually get filled up by engaging with theirs? There's very interesting ways to start to play with this, sometimes from a perspective shift with your mind, and sometimes deeper than that with an energetic shift of actually opening up the receiving channels and that receiving flow. Without these weird points of view in the way of it's a no-no thing, I can't do that, it has to be all about the other person, this person's here for a session, so therefore I should be giving them everything and I can't receive at the same time. We get into this very linear give, take, give, take, give, take. We start to quantify our worth of, cool, if I'm going to put an hour of my time in, all that really matters is I'm getting my hourly rate in return. But is that enough for you? What if you could not only receive your hourly rate in return, but you could receive the energy that actually feeds and nourishes you? You could receive connections that take your life in a greater direction. You can receive more ideas that have different offshoots coming off of it. It is so not linear, this idea of profiting. And it is so not just about the money. It is about the money, totally get it. What would it take to actually profit from what you invest? You invested in your education to get your job. What would it take to receive and profit from that investment? You invest in your business. What would it take to receive financially from all of that? You invest in your relationships. What would it be to actually receive the energy out of all of that too? More than anything, this comes back to your desire for greater. Your desire for more in your own life, and looking deeper than that, your desire for a greater world for all of us. The thing is, if that is your greater desire, greater world for everyone, if you're unwilling to include yourself, you're unwilling to profit from what you put in, you're unwilling to receive from the fruits of your labor, the world can never get as great as it could be. There's an inclusion of yourself in this conversation. And for me, when I start kind of peeling back the layers of this profitability, I'm someone who, again, was very kind of service-based. And because of that, I went into servant mentality for a lot of times. I also really didn't get this whole thing of, while I'm gifting to somebody, I can actually receive dynamically from what I'm gifting and what they're gifting at the same time. It was going a little bit more into that give and the take and the equating of it. I'm going to give you this and I'm going to get this out of it, and that's going to be perfectly fine. There's a cap on that. There's not an opening there to actually include myself and allow my own world, my own business, my own financial reality, my body, everything to actually grow and expand and get greater. Have a look for yourself when you hear the word profit. What comes up for you? If you were looking at your business, your creations, your relationships, that's always an interesting one. If you were to profit from what you put in, is that something that's okay? Is that something that you're really willing to actually open those doors up to allow to flow in? And if not, what baby steps along that path can you start to engage with that opens that channel, opens that flow, and opens that door? What right now, and this may be an exercise over the next week or so, what right now are you willing to open the door to receiving from? Perhaps there's a certain client that you meet with where there's a greater sense of ease. Could you open yourself up more while you're working with them to receive more from them? Perhaps there's an aspect of your business or your job where you could open up and receive more acknowledgement, more praise, more gratitude. Perhaps you could ask for a raise and actually receive more money. Where in your relationships have you made it all about them? You're the parent taking care of the kid, you don't receive from them. You're the spouse who always gives to the partner, you never receive from them. You're the friend who's always the shoulder to cry on, you never receive from them. What would it take to actually start to look where you're functioning from and open up those doors? Just an FYI with that too, people gift in various ways. So if you're expecting to open up that channel of receiving from a partner and expecting them to care for you and gift to you like you want, that's an expectation that probably won't be fulfilled. What would it take to receive their caring in the way that they gift it, without an expectation of what that has to look like? This is a discovery process. This is really kind of a content that I want to dive into over the course of this year moving forward with a podcast of really including yourself, getting honest with where you're functioning from, but including yourself deeply enough in the conversation that you can go, oh, this is where I'm functioning from. This is what I would like to create and receive. And start to look at what you've created in your life, and are you getting fulfilled with the things you've created thus far? Or are there things that need to change? And perhaps it's the structure of how you've built your life and who you have in it. Perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's your own expectations that aren't getting met because you have a very solid point of view that isn't getting matched by them. That's a losing battle, folks. You want to be able to open those doors to profiting in all areas and in unexpected, delightful ways. Profit isn't a no-no. It isn't a selfish thing. It isn't a bad thing. It isn't an equal exchange that we live in. It is the kind of rules of the universe that what you put out, you actually get back. And if you could actually allow that to be present in every element of your life, what could be possible then? That idea lights me up. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to start diving in. Part of this is uncomfortable. It's actually looking and being honest with yourself of what your expectations are and where you've totally closed off to this idea of profiting and receiving. And the other part is finally relaxing enough to open the doors and be flooded. Be flooded in perhaps uncomfortable ways with things that have been at your doorstep waiting to come in. Where you've been holding your arm up and saying, no, not right now, where you put your arm down comes all the way into your world. What is greater and what is more possible than you have ever imagined? And these are the conversations that we have on the regular in Blaze, which is my monthly membership. We have a call a month where you are able to ask questions, get personal facilitation, and actually receive from the whole group. Talk about being able to profit. You don't just profit from yourself, you profit from every other being who shows up. We've been going strong for 4 months now, and I am opening the doors at the end of January to be able to open up for the new group to come in. The link to join is down below. You'll get on the wait list that way and stay connected with me in the meantime. There are so many more conversations to be had, and as I said, for 2020, this is something I'm looking at dynamically and would love to lead a conversation on. What would it take for all of us to profit from our own brilliance and our own caring and our own investment in the world around us, where our lives get greater, and as a result, so does the world. It's a very different place to be functioning from. Listen again to this episode. Let me know how it goes. Again, you can reach out to me at Lauren Polly lorenpolly.com, and you can sign up for Blaze down below. Have an amazing week, and I will chat with you next Tuesday.